Hi everybody, Matt back with you. It's a gorgeous day today. I'm back in Old Town above Hebden Bridge. This was where I was brought up as a child. My mum is still here. This was my view growing up, which I've always been incredibly lucky to have, I think. I can still come up here and enjoy it. I know more about Old Town probably than anywhere else, purely because I've got 45 years of experience of exploring here, so ruins, houses where murders took place, long abandoned tunnels, etc., stones and rocks. But there's one thing I've never been able to find. So for years my grandma had this little newspaper article from 1936 folded up and put in a little pot that was on a window. And it always intrigued me that she'd kept this amongst other pictures of things like wedding photographs and birthdays. But apparently, I think there's a reference here to Fred Johnson, who I think was her brother, who ran the post office. So I've never been too sure quite the exact location of the site, and obviously it is now about 80 years ago. But I thought today we'd just have a little look around that area. I expect to find nothing. I think the last items found there were at least 10 years ago, and that was just a small twisted chunk of metal. Yeah, it's intriguing, isn't it? I don't think this one gets much mention because there are other bigger crash sites in the area which have remains. But let's have a look. So I'm up next to Mount Skip Golf Club. It's behind me there. And I'm going to take the path just off behind me here. Now, there are one or two ruins up here. So just to make this a video where I might find something, I'll show you a few bits en route. And the usual applies, see what we can find. So there is a ruin almost straight away as we start this walk. I believe this was called Forwell, and unfortunately I believe it burnt down, so there's not much left here. Like all good ruins though, there's always a big tree in the middle of them, isn't there? Why is that? That's probably the most complete bit remaining. I don't know if there might be a cellar under all this. Maybe. So the crash that happened up here at Old Town was a bit of an aviation disaster because there were a number of planes that set off at the time, back in 1936, in thick fog, and only one of them arrived. And obviously one crashed here. Now there are apparently accounts of a plane kind of flying around low over the mill and eventually crashing up here. Now as you can see, what we're faced with is a lot of open moorland, and we are 80 years or so removed from it happening. We'll just see if there is anything that might be noticeable. So, without there being an actual spot, I can definitely say it was here. I could be tramping over these moors for hours looking for nothing. It all looks the same, obviously, from here. It's a bit of a shame. There are other sites nearby, places like the Bleaklow crash site, the Black Hamilton crash site, that still have parts of the plane there. And certainly in terms of Black Hamilton, there's tributes there and everything. 3 people were killed here in that plane crash, and it's just a shame there isn't something to perhaps recognise that. I will just keep exploring a little bit more. especially as it's such a gorgeous day. Yes, I wish I could find something. The report seems to suggest that as it crashed, it caused quite a rut in the ground. But as you can see, it's just a sea of heather. I'll keep going. You never know. I'm still up above Old Town, and I have just found a couple of metal objects just lying here. I think they might be a red herring. I think they're a bit too obvious. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on these things. What do you think? They're obviously very old. Do you think they might have come off an aeroplane? No, I'm very intrigued. Should we go this way? Or not? Confusing. So, beginning to head down off the moors back into Old Town. I'll point out a few little bits on the way. About 20 years ago, or maybe more, I think this was a cafe. And that little building you can see there was a toilet, I believe. Anyone remember that? See, I'm sure it was something like a compostable toilet, which at the time was quite unique. Now they're all the rage, I think. Interesting little building. So next stop is Old Town Reservoir. It's quite low today. As kids, this was a place we used to come to, either to hang out or we'd walk up here with school. Obviously we didn't swim in it with school. We used to have sports day up on this stretch here. Might have been we actually did sports day on this section here, it's a bit wider. I'm fairly sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that the cricket club played up here as well before they had their official space a bit further down the hill. Anyone remember that? So, don't come and swim in this one. I have to point that out. It's not very safe. It's interesting, you might not be able to pick it up on the camera, but because the sun is shining today, you can see the steps going down. Unfortunately, there's rubbish in there. I can see tyres, but for the first time I've seen the big grill that's underneath that then takes the water under here, because obviously the reservoir is all this section. That's why there's a chimney stuck in the field here. So I think the last part of our story for today is the bit that interests me most of all, and that's the family connection. So as I mentioned earlier on the article, it mentions Fred Johnson, sub-postmaster at Old Town Post Office, and he is a relation of mine. I think possibly great uncle. I think he was Grandma's brother. My grandma was Marion Dean, previously Marion Johnson. So I think growing up I remember there would be a mention of an Uncle Fred, so that would have been him. What I like best about it is, as far as I'm aware, he was actually the person who found the pilot wandering on the moors and took him back to the post office, and for many, many years afterwards they kept in touch, which I think is a wonderful thing. It'd be nice if they wrote to each other that those letters still existed somewhere. Not sure. Yeah, such a long time ago, isn't it? This path leads us right to Old Town Post Office as it is today. as I walk past where the former Acre Mill once was, it proves that things can disappear entirely. So for now the crash site remains elusive. Were those metal things part of it, do you think? I'm not sure. But I've enjoyed my little wander through my own personal history, places I've been coming to for the last few decades. I'll see you soon. Enjoy the sunshine.